and joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and other persons, to this fine radio program and podcast known as Smokin' and Toastin'. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, ladies and gentlemen, the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'.
Hi, Mom.
We are so glad you're here for show number 204. The title of today's show is Let the Oktoberfest Begin.
And it's not even October yet.
Well, you almost have to start early because it's getting to be, you know how it is when, it's almost Halloween and you go to the store to get like some Halloween decorations or stuff and all you can find is Christmas trees. It's kind of like that with Oktoberfest.
Yep.
If you don't start buying it in August and September, you may not be able to find it when October rolls around. So, because obviously breweries have to allow for time to get it out there and have it be on the shelf and what have you. So, and if they produce too much of it too late, November rolls around and people aren't necessarily thinking Oktoberfest anymore. So they, are moving on to winter warmers and Christmas beers and what have you. But today we'll do something that we actually have not done before on the program. In 204 episodes, we've never done a blind taste test of Oktoberfest beers.
That's going to be fun.
So, yes, it will. Anytime we do a blind taste test of anything, it's generally pretty fun. So, welcome to the show. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. It is
that place is kind of cool.
It is a kind of cool place. It's a website where you can buy cool cigar aficionado type T-shirts, not affiliated with the magazine, but you can buy T-shirts for cigar lovers. Ian's wearing one right now. You can't hurry up and smoke a cigar.
One on.
It's pretty darn cool.
It's a nice, comfy shirt, too.
And, these shirts start at like under $20, and so they're not like super expensive. It's not one of those things like, you ever go to like the band merch table when you go to see a band you really like and you go, oh, man, I really love that T-shirt. It looks great. How much? $60. Ooh. Bono, you and the Edge have a nice life because I just paid your children's college.
The last time I paid $60 for a concert shirt, it was at a Clutch show. And they had the Dickie-style work shirt, and the entire back was the logo
at least
and everything. And that was pretty awesome.
And I'm exaggerating. Very few concert shirts are $60, although you can easily pay $60 for a hoodie.
That's not that exaggerated.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? $40 is pretty common for a T-shirt. That's crazy.
MyCigarShirts.com is a sponsor of the show. We appreciate you. I got a note from them, by the way, last week that said on the day of the show last week, they had several people clock in and order some shirts, so I think they may have been people responding to the show. So thank you.
I think Bruce said he ordered one
for supporting our
my
people.
buddy Stan did too. So.
That's awesome. Well, I tell you what, we have they have a lot of great designs at mycigarshirts.com, and the holidays are coming, and I've been told that there are new designs about to hit too. So exciting stuff. So now the show here today and every day for our 204 episodes is hosted by my good friend Ian Barry and myself. My name is Cruz. But one of the things that happens here on the show that we don't talk as much about as we probably should is all the behind-the-scenes stuff. And that is all capably handled by our producer. I call him the guy on the wheels of steel, Adam Andrus. And
he's pretty amazing.
Adam is amazing. We regularly, today he'll be doing the pouring of our blind tasting beers. So he'll be handing us just the cups. We won't know what the beer is until the end of the segment. But he does all the behind-the-scenes stuff. He gets the show posted. He does the show notes.
Well, if you pay attention, when I'm pouring drinks for the show or when you're pouring drinks for the show, we always have one extra cup.
That's right.
And that's for him.
And we always pass that to Adam because we have a thing that we believe in firmly here at Smokin' and Toastin'.
A work ethic. Share alike, and if the producer's drunk, you won't ask for a raise.
Exactly right. In fact, we try to do anything we can to keep the producer from asking for a raise because we'd kind of be screwed without him. So with that in mind, let me just get something out of my bag here. I have a little gift.
What's happening here?
I have a little gift for our producer.
A gift for the producer. Are you going to have to be on camera or at least on mic here?
Yeah. I just had to reach down to the bag to get my gift. I have a gift for our producer, Adam, from mycigarshirts.com. Check it out.
Ooh.
Can you see it? Am I holding that where you can see it in the camera there?
That's
there we go.
awesome.
Yep, it's a checklist of things that sound good. Does that sound good?
Cuban,
to you, Ian?
Dominican, Nicaraguan, Ecuadorian, Honduran, and checked all of the above.
Yeah, there you go. So that is for you, Adam. Happy Producer's Day. And don't ask for a raise.
Swag.
Yeah, swag is always swag, and a little extra beer and spirits sometimes. Not a bad.
You know,
thing.
if you were to put that on right now, we would be My Cigar Shirt Twinkies.
That's
That'd be awesome.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So mycigarshirts.com.
Shirt buddies.
Check them out because cigars.
Because cigars.
We are doing an Oktoberfest blind tasting today, but as you may have seen at the top of the show, if you're watching the video feed, we have sitting on Mr. Twirligig another of the things that we'll be tasting today, and it is a tequila from the Sauza Tequila Company. It's their Anejo called Tres Generaciones. Now, that means 3 generations, or as I like to say...
They have a whole line of that.
Yes, they do.
And I'm a fan of it.
And
I
it's
think
their
good.
higher-end tequila. You can get the regular Sauza, or you can get the Tres Generaciones in, I think, 3 iterations. I believe there's a Blanco. I know there's a Reposado and an Anejo. And they've changed the packaging on this because it used to be a bottle with the kind of the heads of the 3 guys.
Almost square, almost trapezoidal, more austere-looking model. And
yeah, and it had the 3
no,
guys.
was it the round one?
It may have been. I don't
it was
remember.
a round
it
bottle with the 3 guys.
It
on
wasn't
the front.
this shape, so this is a new shape bottle, and instead of the 3 heads, there's 3 bars there. Signifying the 3 generations. But anyway, I have actually used to drink this tequila very regularly. I haven't had any in a long time.
Those 3 bars, by the way, interestingly enough, are in 3 levels of definition. Like one of them is kind of painted with some voids in the paint. The next one's a little fuzzy around the edges, and the last one is very solid.
Yep. So it's an interesting, it's very artistic, and there's probably a meaning behind it, which perhaps only the Sauza family will know.
Bottle.
Yeah, it is a great-looking bottle. So
and
we'll
also,
be
I want to thank you for when you bring in these bottles. You always do the courtesy of making sure that they're open, so I don't have to fight with it.
That's an important part of the. It's an important part of it.
I noticed you also cleared a little off the top, so it won't
in
spill.
fairness, there's not that much gone, so you'll still have to be very careful. You'll still have to be very careful. Also on the program today, I'm very excited about today's drinking news. Now, there's no way we're going to be able to top last week's drinking news story.
I still laugh about last week.
So
when you said bionic penis, I just lost it. I was done.
If you haven't heard last week's drinking news story, go check out the final segment of show number 204 for drinking news. Believe me, it'll be worth your time to do so. And also, that's the segment where Ian debuted with a ukulele, by the way, our drinking news song. And you brought the ukulele again today, correct? This is why I'm so excited about drinking news. So the story won't live up to last week. Let me just say that now so we don't ramp up expectations too high. But it'll be fun, and we'll be drinking, and it'll be drinking news. There's a big news on the front of Cuba. President Trump has passed new restrictions regarding what we can and can't do as it pertains to Cuba. So we'll share that with you. It's not good news for cigar lovers. The CRA and PCA are hosting a virtual cigar town hall. We'll tell you about that and how to get involved in it. And CRA, one of our favorite organizations in the world, because that's Cigar Rights of America, and they do great work on our behalf. Plus, Yuengling.
Yeah, spell that.
Yeah. If Yuengling might be the only really difficult word on a spelling bee that I'd have a shot at getting right, because I could visualize the bottle in my mind. But Yuengling has now gone over to the dark side. They've joined forces with Coors.
What?
Yep. So we'll tell you about that coming up. So
awkward.
Also, yes, exactly. Also, there's a whiskey that has won best whiskey value for 2 years in a row. So we'll share with you what that is. And the 2020 cigar trophy winners have been announced, and so there's some pretty cool cigars on that list. So we'll share that list.
You
with
have
you as
have
well.
a lot of lofty goals for today's show.
Considering that we're drinking lots of Oktoberfest,
considering we're drinking a lot of Oktoberfest, and fortunately we never tend to get derailed or go off topic.
No, not at all. We were like late getting started today, just because we were.
I told Bruce Stark we were waiting for him.
Okay, good. It's important to have Bruce.
He put up, "Whoo! I just made it." I was like, we were waiting.
We were waiting for you, Bruce.
That's what it was.
We appreciate that. So anyway, lots of stuff going on, and we want to get to our Oktoberfest blind tasting. I haven't counted how many beers, but I bet there's about a dozen. So we'll be looking forward to doing that.
That's a lot of
tasting.
October.
That's a lot of October, and I generally love the Oktoberfest style, but my experience has been, when I know what I'm drinking, at least, I would tell you there are some I like a lot more than others. So it'll be very interesting to me to do this in a blind taste test and see, without knowing what this is.
Are we going to do another pumpkin beer tasting?
I don't know. There's no pumpkin beers in today. This is all Oktoberfest.
No, this is Oktoberfest.
Yeah.
I'm just asking. I think we've done that the last bunch of years.
I think we have.
I don't know if there's any new ones.
It's always kind of fun. And there might be some new. I don't know. We'll take a look and see if it maybe we'll just spread a few pumpkin beers throughout November and December and not do a blind taste test. But anyway, Oktoberfest will be fun today. Crazy week for me. I assume it has been for you as well. But did you have the opportunity to smoke anything interesting, my friend?
Funny you should ask.
Yeah,
I did. I like Oscar Valladares.
Yes, you do. You're a pretty big fan of that whole line.
Something about pretty much everything that he's come out with that I really enjoy. They're kind of like EPC that way. There's not anything in the line I can think of that I go, man, I don't really like that one so much. And there's certain companies that are just good like that. So I have this. It was kicking around in my humidor.
My father comes to mind.
Yeah,
yeah.
Those are great. I had kicking around in humidor the Oscar Valladares Ciseron edition.
Oh, wow.
Have you seen this?
I think I have. I'm trying to remember.
You definitely remember it because the wrapper is unique. So the artist...
it's not one of the ones that comes wrapped in a tobacco leaf, right?
No, that's the leaf.
That's the leaf by Oscar. Okay.
So this one has this big artistic band on it. It's about 80% of the cigar is covered by an outer band. It's original work by Honduran artist
Elmer
Elmer Ciseron Batista.
I have seen this. I have not smoked one.
Yeah. I took a picture of the band once it's laid out. It tore just a little bit, but it's such a cool looking band. Yeah. So this is original work by Honduran artist Elmer Ciseron Batista. The inner band is traditional once you take that band off. The cool thing on the band too is when you unwrap that big band, on the back of it, it has information about the artist.
Oh, that's very cool
and stuff like that. So it's very, very cool. And it's like that added little bonus. You're like, oh, this is a cool wrapper, and then you open it up. You're like, oh, I got something to read while I light my cigar.
I love it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
So that was a lot of fun. This is a Toro 6x52 cigar. The appearance is medium brown, veiny, leathery. The tobacco leaf, when you touch the tobacco leaf, it has that kind of soft, almost velvety feel to it, kind of leathery kind of feel to it.
I know what you're
The
talking
cigar overall was pretty firm with a couple soft spots in it. Just to feel the pre-light sniff on this, it wasn't a real strong aroma coming from this cigar, but what I picked up from it was traditional tobacco, a little tea leaf, light spice. Not anything that made me go, this is going to be amazing. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip. It had a light draw to it. It had a little fruity flavor and a little tanginess on the lips that was really nice, and some baking spices, but again, not a lot. Like, I wasn't getting a whole lot from it. I liked what I got, but it just wasn't real big.
It wasn't really strong. Yeah.
Some cigars, you could it's almost like you're smoking them before you light it.
Yeah. Talking about, yep.
The initial light on this, bread, toast, cedar, oak, touch of black pepper, and aromatic tea.
Nice.
And slightly sweet on the lips. Once the wrapper got a little damp from my lips, it's turned into a little sweetness that was there. Not like a cigar,
not like a sugary sweetness.
Not like a cigar that has a sweet tip to it.
Right.
Not like that, but like the tobacco had a natural kind of sweetness to it that I really enjoyed. So that was an added bonus to it. The first third of this, touch of vanilla and honey mixed with the bread and toast, adding a touch of sweetness. The wood notes and pepper remain the backbone of the palate. Flaky ash, perfect burn.
Nice.
The second third of this, I even put down my times here. I put timestamps on there. The first third was at 11:12 this morning. The second third was at 11:27. Sweetness backs off just a touch. Bready notes come forward. Woody note increases and mingle with the pepper on the back of the palate. Retrohale's real pleasant, introduces a slight nuttiness to the flavor. Flaky ash, perfect burn.
Mm-hmm.
The last third of this, at 11:51 this morning, right before noon, sweetness reappears. Fruity flavors move forward. There was a little fruitiness to this that I may have forgotten to mention in the very beginning. I don't remember if I put that down. Just on the nose. But, yeah, I did mention it. But it never showed up until the last third of the cigar. So the fruitiness moved forward. Oaky notes are real prominent. Pepper is constant in the background, but nice. Kind of a low-level pepper in the background. Just
not
enough
overwhelming
to spice
everything
it up.
else. Yeah.
No, just enough to go, that's pretty nice. Perfect burn. Flaky ash, perfect burn. About $9.50 for the cigar.
Okay.
Between $9 and $10 for this cigar. I give it a 6.
Nice.
It was outstanding. I didn't want to let it go down to the very last bits of it. It was fantastic. I love the overall journey that it took me on from the beginning to the end, and how the flavors just kind of played around with each other. I like the sweetness of it. You know me, I will generally pick a giant cigar and Maduro if possible.
Yep.
And this is neither of those. It wasn't
just
huge.
kind of against your normal smoke.
Yeah, but man, I really enjoyed it. I will buy more of these.
I'm just happy that after last week's cigar, you had one that had perfect burn, because you had trouble with last week's.
Yeah, last week's cigar was driving me a little nuts.
Well, I had something interesting. I don't remember if I've talked about this cigar on the show before. If I have, it's been a while, because I couldn't remember. Not only if I had talked about it on the show, I couldn't remember the last time I'd had one, and certainly couldn't remember what it tasted like. So I went ahead and decided to smoke the La Aroma de Cuba Mi Amor Reserva, and so this is a Ashton puts out the La Aroma de Cuba line, and this particular one, the Mi Amor, is crafted for them in Nicaragua by Jose Pepin Garcia.
That's a pretty full-flavored cigar.
Yeah, and so that's My Father. It's actually rolled at the My Father factory in Nicaragua. It's a beautiful dark reddish-brown wrapper, a very nice-looking box press. That combined with the really nice artistry on the La Aroma de Cuba.
Yeah, it's really
bands,
classy.
It just looks like it's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like, your expectations are high for the cigar just based on its appearance. It sports a Cuban seed San Andres wrapper, Nicaraguan binder and fillers, and the pre-light was, this is one of those, you talked about how sometimes you are sniffing the cigar or doing a pre-light draw, and you're almost smoking it before you've even lit it. This was one of those. It was chocolate, a really rich earthiness on the pre-light. I had a feeling it was going to be good. So I lit it up, and there was this very impressive richness to the cigar from the very beginning, from the very first puff. And it just let me know this is going to be good. You know what I'm talking about? It had a little pepper burst, but it settled down very quickly, and you just knew, well, I'm going to really enjoy this. I began to get earthier notes in the first third of this, some nice nuttiness. The rich chocolate notes got a little more prevalent about an inch or so in to the cigar. I had gotten that on the pre-light, but didn't get it right at first, and here it came, about an inch in. Here came the chocolate, which was really nice. The dried fruit flavors started coming through. I don't want to say it reminded me of a fruit cake, because that conjures up negative images, but it kind of reminded me of a fruit cake.
That's actually an oddly common flavor I've found in bigger cigars, generally fuller cigars that have a fruity note, that fruit cake.
It's just that dried fruit note, like the part of the fruit cake taste that you actually like.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. Not the dry mouth part of
Right,
it. But
exactly. So it got a little bit of that. Toasted nuttiness kept developing. The cigar started out, I would say, right at medium, but by the midway point, it had grown in intensity a little bit. I'd say medium to full. There was some creaminess in the final third. I got notes of cedar and pepper on the retrohale. The construction of this cigar was impeccable. The burn started out slightly crooked, which I think was actually my fault, just the way I lit it. I didn't get it quite even enough. And it actually corrected itself. It was a thing to behold. Now, it didn't burn razor straight the whole way, but it was never more than just slightly, burning a little further on one side than the other. I mean, it was a wonderfully constructed cigar. I never pulled out the lighter to tend it the entire time that I was smoking it. Most impressive thing about this cigar, I think, was that richness that I talked about early on. I really liked the way the flavors kind of intertwined with each other, and they would sort of weave in and out across the palate as you smoked it. You get one thing, and you take another puff, and then you kind of get another.
Yeah.
It makes for just a really interesting journey when you're smoking the cigar. And it weighs in at about $10. And depending on where you buy it, I wouldn't, you could pay a little more, a little less. I wouldn't have been disappointed at $12.
Oh, wow.
So since I paid $10 for it, I'll give it a solid 6, price to quality.
6 is across the
So
board
6
today.
is across the board today. The La Aroma de Cuba Mi Amor Reserva. And there's a number of different Mi Amors, by the way. So this one is the Reserva. I think the original Mi Amor got like the number 2 cigar of the year it came out in Cigar Aficionado. And so this one was kind of the follow-up, I guess, to that. And they didn't really change a lot. It just feels like they maybe tweaked a little bit of the tobacco in it. But very enjoyable, and I recommend it quite highly.
I've had that cigar. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Of course, La Aroma, there's just something about that line is all
Well,
awesome,
it really
too,
is.
so
And anytime
hard to go wrong.
Anytime Jose Pepin Garcia is involved, you know you've got a really good shot at something being really good. So, all right, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to launch Oktoberfest officially. It's September 24th? That's fine.
Close enough.
Close enough. We will launch Oktoberfest officially with a little Oktoberfest blind taste test on Smokin' and Toastin', and we will be right back. Welcome back. It's Smokin' and Toastin'. It's show number 204, and we are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Check them out online. Great cigar shirts, great cigar-themed shirts for cigar lovers everywhere. MyCigarShirts.com, a sponsor of Smokin' and Toastin', because cigars. Americans will no longer be able to buy Cuban cigars legally. We had a brief window where it was okay to actually buy Cuban cigars. Now, they weren't allowed to be imported into cigar shops in the States and sold here. But if you were going to Cuba or knew someone who was, or if you were going to, let's say, Canada or someplace where they're sold, you were allowed to bring them back for personal use, for personal consumption. But Americans can now no longer buy Cuban cigars, Cuban rum, or stay in Cuban hotels. President Trump announced in a speech from the White House earlier this week. New U.S. sanctions leveled against Cuba have removed the permission for Americans traveling abroad to buy Cuba's most famous exports, and they also ban future U.S. travelers from staying at any government-owned hotels on the island, which is a restriction that basically forces all future U.S. visitors to stay in, like, private home Airbnb type places if they're going to go to Cuba, because the Cuban state holds full or majority ownership in every hotel in Cuba. All of these regulations go into effect today, and so it nullifies the Obama-era policies where Americans could bring back up to 100 cigars or 4 boxes duty-free, no questions asked from almost any country in the world, as long as they were for personal use and not for commercial resale. If you had more than 100 cigars, you were subject to taxation, and then excessively large amounts would be deemed to be commercial qualities, although I don't know if they ever established an actual quantity for what that was. But the new regulations not only prohibit the purchase of cigars and rum for Americans in Cuba, but they prohibit their purchase and importation into the United States from other countries that maintain free trade with Cuba, such as Canada, the UK, and Mexico. It's not ever been actually legal to buy Cuban cigars and rum via mail order or the internet, and that remains illegal. If you bought Cuban cigars on the internet, chances are real good they weren't Cuban when they arrived.
They were Cuban-like cigars.
They were Cuban-like. So, anyway, that's the new news. I'm not, to be completely honest with you, sure what Cuba has done now to make the sanctions go back further into effect. I think it just has more to do with that's the policy that the president really thought he wanted. So he just now got around to doing it. So, anyway, there's your news for the moment. And we'll have drinking news, because after news like that, we do need to drink. So we'll have drinking news a little later on in the show.
Last week's drinking news was it's still stuck in my head.
Well, it made number 203 a show for the ages. I've always wanted to say we did a show for the ages.
There you go.
And I think we may have last week. All right. So Adam, our producer on the Wheels of Steel, is pouring. Adam, are these two the same ones? Yes. Okay, so this is going to be number 1 in our Oktoberfest. So we're going to do 3 per segment, except for the last segment we'll do 4. And so this will be a blind taste test. And Ian, what we want to do with these is we want to, the way we normally do our blind taste tests, we want to rank them. So in this case, 1, 2, and 3, which one we like the best, and
I want to drink
so
them.
Well, we'll do that first, of course.
Okay.
But then we want to rank them. Which did you like best, 1, 2, or 3, and put them in order of where you like them. Then once we've done that, we'll find out what each one of them was, and then we'll proceed to the next segment where we'll do that over again. We've got, I think, 10 Oktoberfest beers to taste today.
Challenge accepted.
So we'll do 3, 3, and 4 in the segments. And then at the end, we'll go back and look at our notes. Now we'll know what each one was, and we'll pick our top 3 favorites of the batch.
You know what I love about this show, Cruz?
What's that?
10 beers is not enough because we still have liquor to try.
Oh, yeah. We also will be tasting the tequila. So
Also, I started the show with a show beer.
Show beer for the show today is the TEX, or the Tex beer.
Tex beer.
From No Label. And it's good. Does it remind you of a Lone Star?
It's like if Lone Star was really, really well crafted.
Yeah. It tastes.
And I'm not knocking Lone Star. Lone Star is a good knockback beer, like, when you're out on the river and stuff like that.
Sure.
But this is really delicious. This is 8th Wonder, by the way. This is right over in
the
your
Tex
neighborhood.
TEX beer, yeah.
And it's super, super delicious.
All right. Let's shift into October. Let the Oktoberfest begin. Let's shift into Oktoberfest gear and see what we think of Oktoberfest beer number 1.
It smells like sweet.
There's by the way, a lot of
spicy.
Texas and Houston Oktoberfest here, although there are a few from around the country. So our Houston and Texas-based listeners will have more of a shot at finding some of these, but they aren't all from around here. So
it smells like a sweet bread almost.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say it almost has a bready vibe on the nose. This is very easy to drink.
This is Southern Star.
Yeah? We will see if you're right. I like it. It has baking spice and almost like a bread flour. You know when you eat a really tasty piece of artisan bread that has that flour along the top of the crust? You get a lot of that taste on it as well. It's delicious.
It's good. There's a little almost burnt flavor to it as well.
There is almost like a little bit of a burnt toast or something, or it's not really a burnt caramel.
I'm for it. No, it's not caramel. I'm for it. It's like they over roasted the malt or something almost. It's really.
but in such a wonderful way.
That's good.
I like it. There is a tiny bit of bitterness on the finish, but, we're talking beer. So bitterness on the finish in a beer is not an uncommon thing. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. You ready for number 2? I see you writing copious notes, Ian. Oh, yes. I'll get it for you. I see you writing copious notes. Would you like to share them with us?
We already have talked about it, actually.
Okay. Well, then here comes...
I've just put sweet and spicy and bready on the nose. Sweet, spicy, bready flavor with a bitter finish.
Mm-hmm.
Just to...
I will show the camera. This was number 1. I've still got a little left in the cup.
It's dark.
It's darker than number 2. Number 2 is a little more straw-colored, a little paler. Number 1 almost looks like, an IPA or a maltier type of beer as well. But number 2...
Number 2 doesn't have a whole lot on the nose.
I was just about to say that. It's it's the biggest flavor for me on number 2, at least on the first sip, comes in the finish. It's actually delicious and very easy to drink. Thoughts? A little bit of that baking spice on the end, on the finish, and something tangy in there on the finish that I don't quite know what it is.
Grapefruit.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, take a sip
right.
and then taste it right on the end. It's like grapefruit. It's like That's what I'm smelling in it.
You're right. It's got a grapefruit vibe to it on the finish.
I don't know how much I like that.
I do like it. It's not necessarily what I expect from an Oktoberfest. This one is a little further from being that Marzen, sort of traditional Marzen kind of taste. You know what I mean?
This has got too much of a hop bitterness to the end that it's a very hoppy bitterness. It's not a
no wonder I like it.
It's what's the word I'm looking for? The resinous kind of bitter to it.
Not in a big way though.
Yeah, but it's there, and it shouldn't. I feel like it shouldn't be in an Oktoberfest. I'm not trying to be a snob to the style because I think it's interesting, but I don't know that I like it very much.
I do like it, but I will agree with you. It is much less of a traditional Oktoberfest kind of a taste.
It's almost too bright. Like the finish on it's almost too bright. It's hoppy, and I don't know what to say about it. This is almost the same color as the last one.
Yes, just for comparison's sake, that was. Oh, sorry, I don't have much left of number 2.
This one smells like.
This one is almost exactly the same color.
This one smells like malt. Like
I was going to say malt is about the only note that I'm really getting on the nose.
It's a very one-dimensional nose on this one.
Mm-hmm. But not necessarily a one-dimensional flavor. There's something else going on
You're
there.
ahead of me.
Interesting.
See, this one I thought on the first sip, it's too bright. It's I thought it was going to be like the last one, but it doesn't finish like the last one. This one has more of the hop playing with the malt up front.
It is hoppier than the first one.
But the hop goes away on the end and finishes with kind of a caramelized sugar sweetness to it on the finish.
You're right. This one is
not caramel, but caramelized sugar. Like burnt sugar.
And this one
where it gets a little bit bitter.
And this one is a touch sweeter than the other two as well. The second one had more of the of the tang from what we were describing as more of a grapefruit kind of a flavor. The first one was, I think, more of a traditional Marzen style, and this one is that, but with a little bit of sweetness on the finish.
I got to tell you that I like the nose on this last one. It just smells like classic beer.
Yeah,
like
you're right.
in a
this
good
smells
way.
like a beer, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's kind of like when you're
it's a very beer-smelling beer.
It's kind of like when you're doing the pre-light sniff on a cigar, and you go, well, that's got rich tobacco notes.
Yeah, it's got
it's a good thing.
Traditional tobacco
That's not a
Smell,
bad thing.
yes.
Yeah. I'm going to say I like this, but I've liked all three
I like
of these.
this. Out of the three, though, I'm picking number one.
All right, so
Number one's my favorite.
Yours in order
three.
would be number one, and then...
And I don't know what all brands you got here. But number one, to me, I think feels like Southern Star. And number three feels like it's probably something like Shiner or what's the other one I'm thinking of is like a Real Ale or one of those style breweries.
Could be. I think we do have a Real Ale Oktoberfest in here. So in order for you like number one the best, and then what?
And then three.
So 1, 3, 2 for you?
Yes, 1, 3, 2.
I will go 1, 2, 3. So we both liked number one the best, and then differed a little bit on the following two. Adam, pull your mic over there and let us know what these beers were. What was the more traditional Oktoberfest tasting number one?
Number one.
Galveston Island.
Oh, Galveston Island. How about that? I like that.
Galveston Island Oktoberfest, okay. Nice. All right. That surprises me a little bit.
Nice.
Number two.
Number two is No Label.
No Label. Interesting. No Label Brewing out of Katy, Texas. Known for some great beers.
Number three is Sierra Nevada.
Sierra Nevada. I was wrong on every guess.
Very interesting. Okay, so Galveston Island was number one. No Label was number two. Sierra Nevada was number three. For me, I took them right in order as to which ones I liked the best. Ian went 1, 3, 2.
I definitely, Galveston Island to me, I like how rich that one is. I like the sweetness in it. You know, I like sweet beers anyway. I like the sweetness in it. I like the spice, the all those flavors. Number three, number three. That was the
Sierra Nevada.
The Sierra Nevada. I can't read my own handwriting. I like that one as well, but I think I like the full richness of that first one. I don't think I like the no label one at all.
Now, see, I like that a lot.
I don't think I'd buy that again.
That was my number two. I may be buying some more of that. I thought that was
you're kind
really
of a
good.
hophead, though.
Yeah, well, it happens.
It's weird to have a hoppy Oktoberfest, though.
Well,
that hoppy.
I will say about the No Label, though, it's the least Oktoberfest tasting of the three. I just liked it. You know,
as
what I
a
mean?
beer, I don't know if I take the Oktoberfest out of the equation. Then I think it's just a confusing beer to me.
Well,
I think the No Label was a little over carbonated when I poured it.
and that was the second one, right?
2/3 of the cup when I poured it was all froth.
Now, usually I don't like heavily carbonated beers, but by the time we drank that, there was still a little foam on the top, but I wasn't getting bubbles.
I didn't find any of these to be too bubbly. I do see on the glass it's very laced on the glass.
Yeah, you can see you can still see mine's empty now, but you can see the foam is all
but
the way
it
up to the
didn't
top.
come across on the palate as too bubbly. I'm not sure. I don't like the hop finish on that. I think it's too hoppy. I think there's a limit. There's going to be hops in beer. It's one of the major ingredients,
right?
You know, most of the time. But I think that's taking it too far for my palate.
Yeah. I found it really interesting. So, a very interesting first segment, and so I'm really anxious now to get to our next three beers. So we'll come back for the next segment of the show. We'll taste three more beers, then we'll do four beers in the fourth segment, and then in the fifth segment we will taste some tequila and go over our notes and pick our favorite three from the day. And of course, we'll also have drinking
Blake
news.
Matthews says Oktoberfest should never be hoppy, more malty.
Okay,
Sounds like Buffalo Bayou.
Yeah. All right, so let's take a break. We'll come back with three more Oktoberfest as we let Oktoberfest begin on show number 204 of Smokin' and Toastin'. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we'll be right back.
That was fun.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. They are a supporter of Smoking and Toasting, so please be a supporter of them. And, holidays are not too far away. Great gift ideas for anybody.
You have a birthday coming up, too.
I do have a birthday coming up this coming weekend, as a matter of fact. Yeah, very excited about.
Noted.
Yeah, very excited about MyCigarShirts.com as a potential place for people to get gifts for me for my birthday. Anyway, check them out. And the holidays are coming up, and there's new shirts being added all the time. So it's a really cool place to check out. A little bit later on the show, this is not our drinking news, but maybe could have been. We can now know the future of whiskey.
The future? We can
now know the future
of whiskey?
Yeah, I know you've probably always had questions. What will the future of whiskey be?
It doesn't have any palms to read.
Well, there's a...
are you doing like tarot cards with the whiskey? What's happening?
You're very close. A former Playboy bunny turned psychic has said she knows the future of whiskey, and she has shared it with us. And we'll be sharing it with all of our listeners.
That sounds amazing.
A former Playboy bunny turned psychic. Because why not?
Yeah, I mean, you could change the last couple letters and turn psycho, and I believe that, too.
I'd believe that as well. Yes, that could absolutely happen.
All right, are we going to get back to Oktoberfest Palooza?
We are, but first of all, I just wanted to pass this, and I hate when people make everything a Palooza. That's why you did that. Yeah. I did want to pass this on. There's a really cool thing happening on September 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It is a virtual Premium Cigar Town Hall hosted by the Premium Cigar Association, PCA, and Cigar Rights of America, CRA. Our friend Trey Boring is a member of the Cigar Rights of America. They're going to be discussing all kinds of things like the recent court decision to strike down the deadline for substantial equivalence. And they also plan to cover future strategies, ways to explore and increase cooperation between retailers and manufacturers to ensure future growth and success in the cigar industry, and what just you and me, regular people who like cigars, can do to help out in the ongoing effort to protect people who are interested in continuing to be able to smoke a cigar. Featured speakers will include Carlos Fuente Jr. of Arturo Fuente Cigars, Jorge Padron from Padron Cigars, and Rocky Patel, owner of Rocky Patel Premium Cigars. All these guys are big, forefront guys when it comes to supporting the rights of cigar smokers, cigar manufacturers, and cigar retailers. And there's a number of other people, including the legal counsel for both the CRA and the PCA, and a number of different tobacconist guys that own tobacco shops or different chains of tobacco shops. So it should actually be really interesting. You can find out all about it by going to the CigarAficionado.com website. It's a virtual town hall, and registration is free.
And when is this happening?
It's happening on September 29th.
September 29th.
7 p.m. So looking at my trusty calendar, that is next Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. All the details are at CigarAficionado.com. So be sure to check it out if that interests you. I may have to check that. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. So, all right, it is indeed. What did you say? Oktoberfest? What?
Oktoberfest Palooza.
It's not that. It's just Oktoberfest. We're starting it just a few days early,
I had to add that on there because I know how much that annoys you.
Yeah, I hate when everybody Lollapalooza. It's very cool for it to be called Lollapalooza.
This one smells like a gingerbread cookie.
Everybody went and named their, I don't need to go to a sofa sale called Sofa's Palooza. I mean, that kind of crap just irritates me from the word go. There's nothing palooza about a sofa sale.
From Sofa King?
Yeah, or wherever it was. Anybody that would do that. All right, so we have 3 Oktoberfests to taste in this segment. In the last one, we both liked number 1 the best. It wound up being from Galveston Island Brewing. I liked number 2 second. It was No Label. That was Ian's third choice. And Ian picked as his number 2 the Sierra Nevada. And so here we go with 3 more, starting with one that looks a little darker than the last 2. What's your take on this one so far, Ian?
The nose on this is gingerbread to me.
Mm-hmm.
But as I taste it, it's hoppier than I expected it. Not in a bad way. It's got a brighter finish. Maybe hoppy's the wrong word because while I know that it's the hops doing that, it just has a brighter finish than I expected.
It doesn't have a hoppy, like, it doesn't come off like a pale ale.
No,
and
it doesn't have a bitter.
Right.
This is the least bitter aftertaste out of any of these, actually. There's a slight sweetness to the aftertaste. There's no bitter, but it has kind of a brightness to the flavor.
Yes.
At the end
very, again, I keep saying this, very drinkable beer. It's
out of anyone, this one might be a little
over carbonated.
Carbonated.
Yeah, I can detect a little of that. I do like this one a lot. Very drinkable. Got that Oktoberfest vibe to it, but not like too.
It's got a. Yeah, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
I was just not too Marzen-y. Like it's in that vein, but it doesn't go overboard on that sort of I've been sitting in a European cellar for 6 years sort of flavor.
It's got the malt flavor, but without the sugariness of the malt. So it's interesting because it's a crisp malty thing.
Right.
So it's kind of good in its own way.
I kind of dig it. Let's try beer number 2. These are all Oktoberfests, all purchased within the last, several weeks, actually. Most of them purchased this last week. So you can still find most of these and most Oktoberfests in your area. Now that's different. This has more of that bready maltiness to it.
Bready and baking spice.
Yes, for sure. I'm liking this. Your thoughts, sir?
This one's got a thinner mouthfeel to it.
It does.
I like it well enough. It has an interesting bitter on the end, too.
Mm-hmm.
It has a bitter on the end, almost like an ESB has.
Interesting you say that. Yeah.
Because it's a bitter, but not in any kind of bad way. But it's not a bitter like hoppy bitter.
Not the resiny.
Not the resiny bitter.
Right.
No, it's more like an ESB style bitter to it. But it's a little thinner mouthfeel. I kind of want that to be a little more, especially with how much darker it is. It's almost as dark as the first one we tried.
Right. It is one of the darker ones of this last several.
Sorry, one of these has me burping.
This is very interesting. I don't know if I like it as much as I like the first one, but it's very interesting.
The more I drink this, the more the bitter starts to aggravate my palate a little bit. It's like the first few sips are okay, but the subsequent sips...
You're really right about it being a kind of like an ESB.
And I love ESBs, but there's something about this one that's... I don't know. Maybe I need a palate cleanser.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
How about tequila? Would that work for you? Maybe tequila
I like the way
would
you
work
think.
Maybe tequila would
I need a
work
palate cleanser. Let's
as a
drink
palate
tequila.
cleanser for you. I like that idea. All right, I gotta plug this back in. Stand by. About to lose my phone there. Okay, that's number 2. So here comes number 3.
Number 3.
Now, maybe it's because we've had several of these already, but I'm not picking up much on the nose. There's something there.
Yeah, not much nose on this.
Maybe a little dankness even on the nose. Okay, so that tastes like an Oktoberfest to
This
me.
tastes very German.
Yes, it does.
Like, this one just tastes very German to me. Like somebody was...
Mm-hmm. It does taste very, Marzen-ish, but it doesn't go overboard. Again, it doesn't have what I was describing earlier as that I've been sitting in a cellar in a European, house for 6 years, and now I'm an Oktoberfest sort of taste. That some of the Marzens do for me.
This, out of all the ones that we've tasted so far, I think this one probably nails the light autumn drinkability more than any of them.
I like it.
This is probably my favorite out of the 3 so far.
All right. So if you were to rank the 3, where would you go?
I would go the third one, which is the very German one that I said. And then I would probably go...
I love that you're going back for one more taste.
There's a weirdness to the second one that I'm not sure I like. I would go 3, 1, 2 in this one.
Mm-hmm. And this time I'm going to match you exactly. Number 3 was my favorite of the bunch, followed by number 1. I like number 2, but there's something a little, I don't know, something.
There's a dankness to it that I don't think fits the beer.
Yeah.
I don't mind dank in beer, but it's got a weirdness to it. There's an overripeness to it that I'm not.
I enjoyed the other 2. I enjoyed drinking the other 2 more than I enjoyed.
And now that
one,
I go back and smell it, and I know what I'm looking for, I smell it on the nose very much.
On number 2.
Yeah, there's a weird overripe something to it that.
And a lot of times when we talk about overripe, we're talking about something we really like. You know, like overripe banana in a Hefeweizen or in a spirit.
Yeah.
But
Weird.
All right,
lay it on me, Adam.
Adam, lay it on us. What was picked? It was picked in the number 2 position by both Ian and I. What was number 1?
Eureka Heights.
Eureka Heights. So that is the the Wolfhausen.
Von Wolfhausen.
Von Wolfhausen.
Yes.
Gotcha.
All right.
The crispy, malty one.
I knew I liked that beer, and it is one of the only beers we're tasting today that doesn't actually say Oktoberfest on the can, but it does describe itself as a Feist beer.
Yes.
So that's basically what that is. All right. Number 2 was the one we felt like was a little dank, and Ian and I both picked it third out of the 3. What was number 2?
Southern Star.
Southern Star. Interesting. Now, you thought you had picked Southern Star for the first beer in the.
I thought Southern Star was the very first one. Yeah.
Interesting. Southern Star out of Conroe, Texas. And what was number 3, which we both picked as our favorite of this batch?
Shiner.
Shiner. Really? Shiner Oktoberfest.
Very German.
Well, you said it was very German, and that makes sense since it's from the Spetzel Brewery in Shiner, Texas.
Yeah, so I think that one, the Shiner one to me, and it's fun to blind taste test this and be able to say this. But the Shiner one to me is like very true to the style. It tastes like they were going very true to the style.
It's the most traditional out of the 6 beers we've had so far, probably the most traditional Oktoberfest tasting of them all.
Yeah, and I don't even mind stepping a little outside of traditional until you put too much hops in it. No label.
All right, so in our next segment, we will taste 4, and that will be our Oktoberfest for the blind tasting. In the final segment, we'll put away a little tequila. We'll reveal what our favorite 3 of the day were, and we'll do a little drinking news. So there's more to come on the program. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. That is so funky, isn't it? Love that. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Check them out for gifts and shirts for yourself if you are a cigar lover. mycigarshirts.com, because cigars. Ian, we finally know the future of whiskey.
The future of whiskey.
You may have been wondering about
Somebody
it
is
for a
reading
long
whiskey's
time.
palms
That's right
now.
You may have been wondering about it for a long time, and these are very uncertain times that we live in today, this being the dumpster fire of a year that is known as 2020. And in a quest for guidance, more and more people are turning to supernatural sources. Psychics and mediums across the country are currently reporting a sizable uptick in clientele.
Man, if I walked into a psychic and they didn't expect me, I got to walk right back out.
That's good to know. That's good to know. I like that. Yeah. When you walk in and they ask you your name, you're like,
when they say, Mr. Barry, we've been expecting you, that's the psychic.
that's the one you want to say. Thank you. I'm sitting down now. How much? Because I'm paying.
Right.
The most commonly fielded inquiries for psychics this year have been, when will the pandemic finally end? And who will win the 2020 election? So those are, clearly questions that are on people's mind. So that makes sense. And there's also questions about global climate change and other things, which are all questions that I'm sure people are thinking about right now. But a professional booze writer who writes for Inside Hook was interested in gathering intel about the future of whiskey. So he went to visit June DeYoung, a Hollywood-based psychic to the stars who has worked with everyone from Frank Sinatra to Ellen DeGeneres.
Awesome.
He asked her to make some predictions about his favorite category of liquor, whiskey, and she agreed despite knowing next to nothing about the whiskey industry and the associated terminology. Now, the photo of her that's in this article is an Instagram photo, so I couldn't copy it and send it to Adam, or I would have had him post it. So I'm actually going to just show this from my iPad to the camera, and you can get a look at Miss DeYoung. That is our Playboy Bunny turned psychic and psychic to the stars. This is no Madame Cleo. This is a former Playboy Bunny.
Madame Cleo.
Yeah.
Remember when her accent used to slip?
Yeah.
When she was talking?
Yeah, it was great. Madame Cleo was the best. I mean, that is such a 90s reference, but it's the best. So she's spoken. DeYoung is, of course, as a former Playboy Bunny, has spent a fair share of her adult life hobnobbing with the A-listers. She's taken a note of the contemporary trend of actors and athletes dipping their toes into the businesses of booze. So in the months ahead, she envisions country singers and chefs shuffling into the whiskey category. She says Garth Brooks and Brad Paisley are each going to have their own whiskey.
All right.
That's probably not out on a limb there.
It's not too far out.
Because so many celebrities are doing their own whiskey. She said that according to her charts. She also says she thinks Wolfgang Puck is going to invest in a food-friendly whiskey that pairs, you can't make this up, that pairs well with grilled cheese on Texas toast. Ian, I made you a grilled cheese on Texas toast. Will you go do a whiskey sniff and see which whiskey pairs with this?
I love that Texas toast is just a big slab of bread.
Oh, yeah. That's
toasted.
all it really is. It's a huge slab of bread with butter on it.
Right.
Toasted.
It's like if instead of the thin cut or the regular cut bread, it's like incredibly thick cut bread.
So the writer of this from the Inside Hook says, that's an awfully specific set of information, don't you think? I mean, often psychics deal in wild generalities. But she's going on record as saying Wolfgang Puck, food-friendly whiskey that pairs with grilled cheese on Texas toast.
So what if it's a self-fulfilling thing that Wolfgang Puck hears this and goes, you know what I should do?
I should totally come up with a whiskey that pairs well. I don't know.
So chicken or egg, right?
Well, if it gives him an idea and he can make money from it, I bet he'd do it. I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He's a great chef. And
maybe we should blend a whiskey that goes well with Texas toast and try to sell it to Wolfgang Puck.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Somebody
call Chris Hart right now and let's get on this.
Let's get the palates working.
Over the past decade, Japan, Taiwan, and most recently Australia have emerged as unexpected epicenters of the brown spirit assembly. World whiskey, as it is collectively known, comes from countries outside the traditional hubs of North America, Scotland, and Ireland. But according to our psychic, look for liquid out of South America. Look for Venezuela. Look for them to use it to help their economy recover. She also is expecting whiskey from New Zealand and maybe the British Virgin Islands. I don't know where this is coming from, but
it's coming from her psychic sources.
Yeah. Through the years, she shared bar tabs with enough legendary artists to fill an award show auditorium. She's sipped on scotch with Tony Curtis and James Caan. She's drank with Hugh Hefner, who always had highballs, she said. She met Johnny Depp at the counter of a dive bar in 2019. She's taken shots with Richie Sambora. It's been that kind of a thing. By the way, she says that when she did shots with Richie Sambora, he told her what he wanted to manifest. He said he wanted to date Cher, and a few years later it happened. Dun, dun, dun. So regardless of who you're taking shots with, you're likely longing for a return to your favorite crowded watering hole. Sadly, our psychic does not see that happening anytime soon. It'll be an on and off thing for the next year, she says. And in the meantime, she expects the return of speakeasies. Not the traditional, things from, the sort of modern era, but bona fide prohibition-style bar rooms reserved exclusively for those in the know that are probably, doing what they want in terms of social distancing.
That's totally happening.
Because they're discreet and on the down low.
Totally happening. And I don't know about the discreet thing. But
underground bars and restaurants will be in, she says. You'll have to say the secret word to enter. And I just want to read you this paragraph from the author of this article. He says, after my session wrapped up, I had nearly as many questions as answers. Can they even grow grain in Venezuela? Texas toast, grilled cheese with bourbon? Why hadn't I ever thought of that? And who the hell is Brad Paisley? So there you go. Those are the thoughts of the psychic about the future of whiskey. By the way, I don't know if you know this or not. Brad Paisley, the country artist. He's a hell of a guitar player.
He's a beast.
He can really rip on the guitar.
He's an absolute beast on guitar.
Yeah, so I actually do know who Brad Paisley is, and I kind of like him. All right, it is Oktoberfest time. Adam on the Wheels of Steel, fresh from receiving his new MyCigarShirts.com gift today, has loaded us up with our last 4. So it's time to do some drinking. Ian, what do you take from
this one smells good.
From Oktoberfest number 1?
This one smells good.
Yeah?
This one tastes good. Number 1 is good.
I'm for it. That's just a really well-balanced. You get all kinds of Marzen and malt flavors in this. A little bit of that, baking spice that we talked about, but everything's really balanced.
I'm calling that one St. Arnold.
Are you?
It's good.
That is really good. Okay. I'm just writing very good in my notes. I don't know how much.
I just put good.
I don't know how much that'll help me as I compare and contrast, but that's where I am so far. All right. Oktoberfest number 2. Maybe.
What's
You
that?
want some water for a palate cleanser?
Maybe. It's probably too late. We're
well
like
into it.
7-8 beers in now.
All right,
we might as well just keep it fair at this point.
This is beer number 2.
This has a... What am I smelling on that?
I'm getting a sort of a yeasty, bready thing on the nose.
This has a pretzel smell.
Oh, it does. That's a good way to put it. That's more accurate than what I was saying.
This one's good.
Mm-hmm. This may be the most traditional Oktoberfest of any of the, what have we had, 6, 7, 8 beers we've had so far. It's really...
This one's
You
good.
really want a pretzel with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this one smells like pretzel.
You mentioned in the break that this might all go down differently if we had like a big pretzel and some
if we had
some
something
mustard.
A palate changer,
Yeah.
even like a pretzel and some mustard would make every one of these taste different.
So when we do this next year, that's exactly what we'll do.
Well, we got the whole month of October. I don't mind. I like Oktoberfest.
So you're saying we should restage the Oktoberfest with
we
pretzel
could do this every week, and I'd be okay with it.
and compare the results with pretzel.
But one
without
week
pretzel.
with pretzel.
Yeah.
One week with sausage.
Well, I'm liking both of these very much. Number 1 was really terrific. Number 2, very traditionally Oktoberfest, I thought, but but also very good.
Very ESB bitter on the end.
But not the same way as the other one that we were talking about, which
we
wound up
didn't
being,
like so much.
which wound up being the Southern Star. It had that was a different sort of bitter. So here
No, this
comes,
has a very ESB like style finish to it.
So here comes number 3, and
This is like he's just getting darker with each beer here.
yeah, and more full, I think, as well. This is a nice strong pour.
Oh, this one smells sweet.
It's got some sweetness to it on the finish,
I
kind
like
of
the
an
sweetness on
unexpected
that.
sweetness.
I like the sweet. Oh, this is like my favorite batch. This is gonna be hard to.
Yeah, this batch is really
Separate this
going well.
batch.
So this one tastes less like a traditional Oktoberfest to me, and it's got a little bit of tang on the end of it. But going back to the first segment and the second beer where we had the no label that had a bit of a grapefruit vibe to it, this I think I like better than that. It's got just a little bit of it's got a little bit of a tang to the end of it, in my opinion. Do you get that?
Yeah, it's a hoppy tang, but not over hop like.
It's really quite good. I could easily drink that for a while.
Man, this one's going to be a tough one.
All right, so here is our 4th and final Oktoberfest of today's blind taste test.
That one's different. That one has a sourdough almost.
Man, this one would be good with, you know, those pretzel crisps you can buy?
Those are awesome with hummus.
Yes, with a little hummus or maybe like some crab dip.
Or some good Dusseldorf style mustard.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think
Are we stopping by King's Beer Garden after this?
We've been drinking just enough that we are like starting to get really hungry.
Well, I mean,
This
10
is,
beers here.
Yeah, this is quite good. I mean, I don't know.
It's good. This is very different than the other ones.
Yes, it is.
This one has a little bit of pie crust to it as well.
Pie crust is a good way to say it. Yes. Well, I'm gonna say this right now. We haven't had anything today that I have not liked.
We have had one that I didn't. That no
Yeah.
label one. I can't do that. It's wrong.
All right, Ian. In our and see, I thought it was pretty good.
And I like no label, but they
Yeah.
missed it on that one.
I don't know that I can agree with that, sir.
I don't know how to make this
How do you rank these last 4?
because one is good. But now I'm thinking about that's not St. Arnold's. Two, with the bitter finish I like.
Okay, I think I got my ranking down on these.
What if we just pour these all in the same cup and have like a super
super
Oktoberfest beer?
Isn't that like when the coronavirus like meets with other coronaviruses and they mutate into a super virus? It'd be kind of like that.
I'm going to go with 2 as my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to go with 3 as my next favorite.
Oh.
I'm going to go with, yeah, so I'm going to 2, 3, 1, 4.
2, 3, 1, 4 is where you would rank them. I'm going to go with 2 as my favorite as well, but with 1 as my second favorite, and then number 4, and then number 3. So mine will go 2, 1, 4, 3 is how I rank them. Adam, time for the big reveal. Let's see who we're doing here.
Number 1, Real Ale.
Real Ale. from Blanco, Texas.
And that one is just good. That's what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I wrote very good. And that was my number 2. That was your number 2 as well, is that right?
That was my number 3.
That was your number 3, okay. What both of us picked number 2 as our favorite of this batch.
11 Below.
11 Below. Wow.
Wow.
Very interesting. All right. Number 3, I picked 4th of the bunch, and Ian picked 3rd.
St. Arnold.
St. Arnold. Wow. Now, I would have told you, and this is why blind taste tests are so interesting.
Yeah.
Because I would have told you before this started that St. Arnold would be my favorite of the entire bunch. Because I look forward to that coming out every year.
Oh, I do too.
I buy a lot of it, I drink it, and I enjoy the hell out of it. And yet I picked it 4th out of this batch of 4.
I picked it 2nd out of this batch of 4.
Very interesting. Number 4.
Number 4, Odell.
Odell.
Well, yeah.
All right, very good. I picked it 3rd out of the batch. You picked it what?
I picked it 4th out of the batch.
4th out of the batch.
But I did that
okay.
because it's kind of a niche beer. I liked it, but it's very pie crusty.
It is very pie crusty. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily what I wanted. It's drinkable. I like it. I will tell you though that out of each group of beers that we had, I liked every one of these on the last group.
Right. This last group was outstanding all the way through.
On the first group, we had that way too hoppy no label one that I didn't like at all. You liked it, but I didn't like it. I like the Galveston Island, and I have actually saved some of every beer, so I can try my favorites from each one to see what my overall favorite would be.
All right. Well, you'll have a break to do that in. We're going to come back with drinking news, tequila, and our final results in our final segment here today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for checking out Smoking and Toasting, show number 204, and we will be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Smoking and Toasting, our program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. You know what I love about having the Oktoberfest blind taste test is all these little cups of beer sitting here that I can sip on.
There
during
are
the break.
10 cups of beer in front of me that I'm going to continue to drink.
Our show is brought to you by MyCigarShirts.com. Check them out online. The address is MyCigarShirts.com. The shirts are great. They start under $20, and MyCigarShirts.com because cigars.
Because cigars.
Ian, it's time for drinking news. Kind of touches the soul, doesn't it?
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Gather up while we gather round. Saddle up while we drink 'em down. I got a story and I swear it's true. And now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
I love the theme song. I love it. You realize, though, until you get it recorded, you're going to have to bring your ukulele in every week.
It might not be a ukulele every week. I might mix that up a little bit. But as an added bonus, I'll play this. Okay, I'm going to leave it there.
That seems vaguely familiar. Drinking News, ladies and gentlemen, is our segment on the program where we share with you a story that may or may not be about drinking, but is probably always best enjoyed if you are drinking. And we certainly have been as we've been doing our blind taste test for Oktoberfest. So, Ian.
Yes?
I hate to disappoint you, but it's another week where we don't get to say a Florida man.
You know, I did write the Florida Man verse on this. I didn't play it today. It's an optional verse.
Well, today we have a story that begins an Illinois man is celebrating the 60th birthday of an unusual keepsake. It's a sandwich that he has kept frozen since 1960, when it was half eaten by Richard Nixon. The man has kept a half-eaten Richard Nixon sandwich in his freezer since 1960. Yes.
Why?
Do we have a picture of Mr. Sullivan?
Please tell me we do.
Mr. Jenny is his name.
Do you have a picture of the sandwich?
Steve Jenny of Sullivan, who will be pictured here shortly, holding a sandwich, said he was a Boy Scout. I think he's got it in a jar. Said he was a Boy Scout when Nixon visited the town of Sullivan, Illinois, during a September 22nd, 1960 campaign stop. The future president attended a cookout, ate half. Oh, there it is. You can see it now. That's the half-eaten sandwich in a jar, and Mr. Jenny. The then future president attended a cookout and ate half of a buffalo chicken sandwich, which Jenny took home to keep in his freezer. I looked around and thought, well, if nobody else is going to take it, I'm going to take it, he said. The sandwich brought him notoriety over the years, most notably with a 1988 guest appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and the half-eaten
That's what
sandwich.
we call
a
very low news week.
So here's the thing, though. The guy goes on Johnny Carson with this half-eaten sandwich, and then Johnny Carson gave him a half-eaten Johnny Carson sandwich to add to his collection, and he got a paper plate signed by Steve Martin, who quipped that he had earlier used the plate to eat some chicken salad. So Jenny says his collection now includes unfinished foods from entertainers Tiny Tim and Henny Youngman. He said, though...
All right, I wish I'd have known this, because this right here deserves like a Neil Young style folk song. Right?
Oh yeah, well, see, maybe I don't know. See, I usually enjoy surprising you with the drinking news, rather than having you know about it in advance. Finally, Mr. Jenny said the Nixon sandwich does remain.
It's the Nixon sandwich. That's a thing.
I am not a rap.
Like, can we Google the Nixon sandwich and see what happens?
This guy would probably come up.
That's amazing.
He said the Nixon sandwich remains the crown jewel of his collection. As long as I'm living, he says, that sandwich will be stored in my freezer in a container that is labeled. The label will say...
Gary says, eBay auctions in the making.
Yeah, the label will say, save, don't throw away.
Oh.
No, he didn't name it Nixon sandwich.
And it's in a Musselman's jar, too. What was it, Musselman's? Was that applesauce, or what was...
Was that?
I know that brand. I've seen it before.
Yeah. I think it is applesauce.
Is it applesauce? Yeah, I think it's an applesauce jar, right? Wonder if that's the original jar from the 60s.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is your drinking news.
Drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time. Uh-oh, my cable's getting in the way.
Oh, see?
Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When I asked him about his absent arm, he said, I tried to take my gator to the vet. Drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news. Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
I'd like to point out that there are other shows you can listen to out in the wild world of podcasts. You can listen to there's other cigar shows, there's other whiskey shows, there's other shows about craft beer. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's no show that has their own theme song performed live for a segment called Drinking News. I think we're the only
Number one in the world,
I
baby.
Think we got that market cornered. All right, Ian, it is time
and
for
all that before tequila.
Yes, I was just about to say it is time for you to open the tequila. As you pointed out earlier, I have done you the service of taking off the initial wrapping.
I really appreciate that. Then anytime you bring in a bottle, you've already performed the hard work for me. So all I have to do is actually just pop it open, and you clear the top too of the bottle so that when I pull the cork out, it won't splash. I don't have to worry about it spilling.
If you got tequila all over your shirt,
you're just incredibly thoughtful.
That's I live to serve. That's how I look at it. You wouldn't want to get tequila all over your shirt. That might be hard to explain to the officer in charge. All right. So this is Tres Generaciones, the Anejo tequila from Sauza. Sauza, known more as a bargain tequila, I think, for their regular line. But this one is...
Sauza's good like mixing...
Right. No more as a mixer and stuff from the regular line. But this
I
is...
might have
This is their
change that last drink I gave you.
Well, I know where the bottle is, and God knows we've had some Oktoberfest.
All your hard work and effort, by the way, was for naught because I did spill some on my leg.
See, it's I can only try. I can only do so much, Ian. The rest I have to leave to you. So,
Bruce said I googled the Nixon sandwich, and the half-eaten sandwich came out on top.
Well, there you go. There you go. Thank you to our cast of friends who always do the hard work.
Oh, this smells awesome.
It really does. It's got a pretty traditional agave tequila.
Yeah, it's
vibe
heavy
to it on the
agave
nose.
smell with vanilla with.
Maybe a little note of almond or maple in there.
I get like kind of raw cane sugar, kind of
okay,
almost.
Okay, I'm with you.
Even though I know that's not in there, it has that sugary kind of natural sugar kind of note to it.
So, what this strikes me as, on first sip, is one of the more agave forward añejos that is still giving you some of that barrel-aged smoothness and a little bit of those oaky flavors. But that doesn't show up until the finish. The first part is really straightforward agave. Would you agree with that?
Oh, man. Agave and oak, like, it's rare to find oak at the very front of the flavor.
There is some oak on the front. You're right.
The oak on the front and the agave, and then it finishes with this beautiful pepper warmth.
There is definitely pepper on the finish.
And the tequila hug doesn't wait. Like it's right there, ready to like scoop you up and give you a great big bear hug.
It doesn't come floating back gently later.
Yeah, it is an immediate yet gentle hug.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of tequilas do have a little bit of a pause timer on their
I really like the
hug.
pepperiness in this.
Yeah. It's not as peppery as the if you get the regular Sauza Anejo, it's much pepperier, and more straightforward. This has got more nuance to it.
Have you ever had something that has a heavy black pepper flavor without the black pepper burn? That's what this has. It has that black pepper punch without the burn. It's really interesting. And then the heat from the tequila itself. You just drank. What is the 40%?
Yeah.
I like the new bottle, by the way.
I think it's pretty cool. So I used to drink this tequila a lot. I've kind of forgotten about it over the years, to be honest.
This used
to be one of my
before we did the show, when I went to go buy tequila, this was like one of my go-to brands because I knew that everything in the Tres Generaciones was always going to be good, and it was going to mix well, and it was going to do like all that stuff. And
it's not like heavily priced. I mean,
it's all, the whole line is reasonably priced.
I love tequila. I would love to know how our tequila expert Liliana what her view is on the Tres Generaciones.
Does it have all the markings that she
that she really looks
the
for?
CRT and the NOM. Heco and Jalisco, Mexico. 100% Puro de Agave Azul.
Yeah, it's got what you're looking for a premium tequila.
Yeah, this ticks, like, for me, and I've been introduced to a lot of tequilas hanging out with you that I otherwise wouldn't have tried, but
That's one of the dangers of hanging out with me. But
yes. But this one ticks all the boxes for me. Like, I really enjoy the roundness of the flavor. I enjoy the bigness of the flavor. It's not a complex flavor. It's oak. It's agave. It's pepper.
Right.
And a little bit of a sugary.
Almost like a sugarcane vibe.
Yeah,
to
me, it's sugarcane, kind of like sugar in the raw kind of vibe to it. Turbinado sugar, however you want to call it. But
okay, I'm digging that. The more I sip that, the better it starts to taste, and I love that about there's a crystal tequila that we had on the show. It's the Q. Remember the one with the Q on the name? It was a while back on the show. I remember.
Can't remember the name at all.
The kids were over, and Brianna brought some over. A bottle of it, and it was one of those things like, oh yeah, I kind of like this on the show, and so I was sipping it throughout the evening, and it was one of those things like, the more sips I took, not just because of consuming alcohol, but the better the taste became. It was just one of those things that as the evening went on, just sipping it very slowly, like it just started to taste better and better.
So there is,
and this I think
there's a huge validity to the acquired taste, and by acquired taste I don't mean like something that tastes bad that you get an acquired taste for eventually.
Right,
no.
Right.
I mean, what happens is a lot of the times we get palate shock. You drink. It's in the simplest form. It's like grabbing a fountain drink and taking a sip, and when you expect Coca-Cola but you get Sprite, you're like and you make that like, what was that kind of thing? Even though it's not a bad flavor, it's just a different flavor. So we a lot of times suffer from palate shock because, I look at tequila and I expect certain things. And
right.
Sometimes when we smell it, we expect certain things, and it doesn't taste like that either.
I have that with wine a lot. Very often my first taste from a bottle of wine, I go, okay. And by the fourth or fifth taste, I'm like, this is really good.
Yeah, and we're not talking about within like 4 or 5 glasses where you're like, oh, I'm drunk, I really like this. No, we're talking about like now your palate is acclimated
as
to
your
it.
palate adjusts and kind of begins to really feel and experience what it's taking
Think
in.
about how our palates respond to spicy food very much the same way. The more spicy food you eat, the spicier the food you can handle.
Right.
So if you jump into like a super spicy something on your palate, it feels really, really burny. But if you start with something mild spice and then work up to a heavier spice in the same sitting, it's not as, shocking, obviously.
Well, Ian, you were right about one thing. I'm not going to get to all the stories I was teasing earlier on in the show. But one thing we do have to wrap up is our blind taste test of these Oktoberfest beers. You and I both need to pick our 3 favorites of the day. Now, we know what they are, our 3 favorites of the day. How did we rank them? And I will start with you.
So I want to point out that in the last batch of them, I picked one of my favorites. St. Arnold was my second favorite in the last batch. So I can't use that because we're only looking at the top 3.
Well, but you don't
in
have
each
to pick,
batch.
You don't have to pick number 1 from every batch.
Oh, see, I'm going for number 1 from each batch.
You don't have to do it that way. You can pick your favorites across the day.
No, well, I'm not going to defend.
What is it?
I do love
is it The Mandalorian, where they go, "This is the way."
This is the way it is.
I think that's
I'm going to go with my number 1s across each tasting because I feel like if I picked them as number 1s, they were my favorite of the batches. Now, it's true that if we mixed up the rest of the batches, it might have been different. But out of the 3 that I picked as number 1 in each segment, I'm going to let's see, that's going to be number 2 in this segment. I think my favorites were going to be 11 Below.
Wow.
And then Galveston Island.
Wow.
And then the Eureka Heights.
So 11 Below, Galveston Island, Eureka Heights.
Now, keep in mind, these are all number 1s from what we tried today.
Right.
Now, ones that I keep in my refrigerator pretty often, the Eureka Heights, that von Wolfhausen, is a great drinking beer. It is a feist beer, but it's on the lighter side overall.
Really is good. It's
and
very
it's delicious.
Very quaffable.
To me, it's a lot like the St. Arnold Guten Tag. It's very much in that same category to me.
And I didn't bring in Guten Tag because St. Arnold actually has an Oktoberfest.
Right. That makes a difference.
That's where we went.
They're similar, but they're not the same.
But they're not the same, yeah. Guten Tag is a little more pretzely, and
yes.
Oktoberfest is a little more autumn.
Yes.
Is the best way I could say it.
So that's where I'm going to go with it. I'm going to say, Adam, my favorite of the day is that 11 Below, and I'm really surprised by that. I haven't even seen that one, but I'm going to buy some directly affecting sales. What did you come
smoking and toasting directly affecting sales.
So I'm going to say,
it happened.
I'm going to say 11 Below. I'm going to say my next favorite that I picked as a number one was the
Galveston Island.
Galveston Island, and then the next one was the Shiner. No, Guten Tag.
Guten Tag. Oh no, we didn't do
not
Guten
Tag. Von Wolfhausen.
Yeah.
And then as an honorable mention, I still love the St. Arnold's. I drink it a lot.
Yeah, I do too. So my top three at number one, I'm going with the Shiner Oktoberfest.
That was the very traditional one.
Really outstanding beer of the second segment. Oktoberfest from Shiner, number one. Number two, I'll take the 11 Below, which was number one for me in the final segment. But at number three, I'm going to take the Real Ale, which was my number two beer of the final segment. So Shiner, 11 Below, Real Ale, as I pick all local, local area beers to round out my list. But I'm telling you, really everything. There wasn't anything we had that I didn't like. And I think the only thing you maybe only had one that you didn't like. So.
I had one that I didn't like. So out of 10 beers, 9 are great. They're all winners for me. They're all really good.
It's like everyone gets a trophy. Everyone gets a ribbon. Participation. I participated. I was in the blind taste test. No, it's not like that. These were all, I thought, all very good beers, and Ian liked all of them except for one. And I am just, quite frankly, I'm really excited just to have some of them left sitting here in the cups as we round out the show. Thanks for doing the blind taste test. Thanks to Adam on the Wheels of Steel for doing the pours for us and keeping them coming to us in a random sort of way. Thanks to an Illinois man for providing us some drinking news.
Oh, do I need to do an Illinois man verse now?
I don't know. Maybe.
I have a Florida man verse.
And a Louisiana man. We've had that before.
Louisiana man would be pretty good, right?
Yeah, so you'll have to think of what the correct verse would be.
There's also going to have to be a Southeast Texas man.
Yeah, of course, because Southeast Texas.
Southeast Texas.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us for the show this week. Next week, we are very, very excited about next week's show because an old friend returns to the program, Jared Hemstedt from Balcones Distilling will be joining us. We'll be talking whiskey. It'll be great fun. We'll ask him what he thinks of our whiskey psychic prediction that we shared on the show today, and it'll be a great time to talk to them. By the way, one of my favorites, my number one, was a Shiner beer. Balcones and Shiner have done some very interesting collaborations this year, so I'm sure Jarrett will be able to.
Yes,
talk about
actually, we had some of the Brewers' Prides on the show. Yeah.
Yep. So it'll be really interesting to talk about that and to try out, and of course, Balcones. These guys are just getting, praise and adoration from around the world for their whiskey.
You know what's awesome? Every one of their whiskeys.
Everyone.
Like, they're so good.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. So we have that to look forward to next week. Thank you for hanging out with us for 204 of these bad boys. My name is Cruz, Ian Barry, Adam on the Wheels of Steel. Have a great week, my friends, and we will be back to see you soon. And as they say in Smoking and Toasting Land, cheers, y'all.